morning, a fantastic afternoon, and a tremendously wonderful evening. I am trying to listen to what our friend Cameron said and begin doing this magnificent, wonderful, fantastic day because that's what it's going to be. Anyway, I am Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And today, you guys all know these people if you've been around for a while. I have Jeanne. She's here practically every day. And very wonderful and very good at the job she does. And we have Victor, who has been doing a lot with me, and hopefully he's going to continue. And Krishna is in my background, just so you know, the cat. He may have something to say because we're talking about dreams becoming real in 2022. And he's been talking to me a lot recently. And we have the wonderful Keni Pulver, who is loved by many and has done a great deal of work with, I don't even know how to explain it, telephones and getting us on the internet. And we're very thankful for Jeff being with us today. Having said that, we are talking about our dreams becoming reality in 2022. We did that on Tuesday, and we're going to add to it today. And remember, we are on YouTube these days, and we're very excited about that. No more Facebook Live for MindPlore or any of my shows at this point, because they've kicked me off one too many times. With that, Jeanne, can you take over so I can do what you know I need to do?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So today's quotes, I want to start with the great American philosopher, actor, and OG rapper, LL Cool J. And he said, stay focused, go after your dreams, and keep moving toward your goals. I love it when I still think of him as a young person, says something very wise. And then I found a couple of quotes that I put together from somebody that Carla follows closely, and that's Napoleon Hill. Cherish your visions and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. If you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. I love those. Put those together. It's really powerful. And then Sarah Ban Breathnack, an author, I believe it's of Simple Things, writes, take a leap of faith and begin this wondrous new year by believing. Believe in yourself. Believe that there is a loving source, a sower of dreams, just waiting to be asked to help you make your dreams come true. So I thought I'd start with the practical and then jump to the relatively mystical. Jeff.
I am fixing something. You will have the link in a moment.
Okay.
Continue.
So Jeff, it's a new year and we're talking about making our dreams appear.
Yes. Well, I'm in favor of 3 words come to mind when you speak about that. And to me, it's about vision, opportunity, and now, and seeing it and then doing it, and allowing ourselves the possibility to be both unbounded and to be present and actually be in that flow state. So I make my dreams real by visioning, envisioning, seizing the moment, and being in the, and then flowing in the now.
Did it take much for you to get to that point to be able to do it? Is it something you need to practice a lot, or is it something that when you kick into it, it just sort of flows, using your word?
When I'm in the right state, when I'm grounded, it just flows. And so as long as I start each day grounded, it works wonderfully. If I'm out of balance, I have to reset.
Okay, so looking at the background picture that you have on your screen, it looks like being out in nature might help ground you.
Yes, this is actually symbolic that every day is a new beginning. This photo was taken around 7 o'clock in the morning after a night of astrophotography. And one of my sisters realized we left one of our cameras in the middle of the road. Out that the camera was found, no damage, because this road was not traveled very much. And while we went out 3 hours later to get it, because we got back after 4 a.m., we captured an amazing sunrise that same day. So
it is amazing.
And what was really challenging and stressful turned out to be absolutely beautiful.
It's funny how that is. We get really stressed in specific moments, and then later on when we look at it, we go, oh, and we can see it's either a lesson or a beautiful moment.
And in our case, we found the light.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's great. Victor, welcome back to the right coast, which is the left coast. I know you've been traveling. I saw some great pictures with you and your family on Facebook. So it looks like you had some good fun, good food. So welcome back. And as a person who really looks at attitudes, how do you go about making your dreams appear?
I must say it's a thought management thing with me. I manage my thoughts, I guess, by the millisecond. And when you're talking about dreams today, my dream is to be able to manage my thoughts 100% of the time. When I am able to manage my thoughts, I produce the life that I desire. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that I can actually do it 100% of the time, but that is my goal. And since that's my goal, then my mantra, better than I was, not as good as I'm going to be, it holds true. Because I am more able to manage my thoughts today than I was yesterday. This past couple of weeks that I was back east, before I went, I declared it was going to be the best visit with my family and my wife's family ever. And that is exactly what it was for me. Now, it may not have been that for them, but they didn't really set the intention or decide on the outcome. I did. So because I was able to create that now, I think I can create it again and again and again. And of course, this new thing that's been created since I left, this 2-minute thing, it limits me to expounding on this further.
Oh, Victor. It just keeps us bouncing back and forth and keeps the discussion going, because I know you're going to come back and talk a little bit more about this, because I like the phrase that you put, thought management. In all the times that I talk about clarity and knowing your message and coaching people and how to get what they need across to other people, thought management has not been 2 words that I put together. Although I talk about thought management because that's how we get to where we want to go. The other thing I wanted to say is, when you used goals, you used it right, and I want to thank you. Goals are aspirations, things you set to work towards. We don't always hit 100%, and I find too many people see that as a mistake or a problem. And I try to say, look, that's your goal. Did you get closer? Woohoo! Because we want to be working towards something, right. versus I'm going to make 3 goals that I can achieve, and then I have nothing to work for. Those are strategies and tactics that go underneath the goal, but I'm getting into my business thinking, and I used to argue with people about that kind of stuff all the time. But goals are things you set to work towards, to achieve. And when you do achieve them, you set a new goal a little higher. So we continue to raise our vibration and raise our aspirations. Jeff, how's that feel?
It feels actually right in sync. It's part of my ability to make dreams happen is staying with a high vibration. That if life is all about energy, vibration, and frequency, going high with the intention, with the vibration, and staying there, even if I don't agree, even if I'm in a conversation of disagreement, offers the highest possibility of getting through to where I'm wanting to go. And goals are relative too, right? We have goals for all parts of our lives. We have to first know who we are. And one of the dreams is for everyone on this planet to appreciate themselves and engage in self-love, to understand who they are, to give themselves time to breathe. That if we are in a situation of caring and giving, to allow ourselves the same nurturing ability, because that's the magic that we give to ourselves will empower us to share with everyone else.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I like the idea that okay, Carla, you missed it. He held up his timer. He is so good at this. I was teasing Carla that we should have the Toastmasters timer things in our background, but that goes a little too far.
No, I will not do that.
No, but
Sorry, that ain't happening.
Well, I think one of the aspirations I'd like to see for this year for everybody is more laughter. So thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
This is something I've been missing, and I think I'm not the only one, because as we've been in off and on quarantines and lockdowns, we're not able to be with all of our friends and family as much as we have been over the last 2 years. And it's kind of hard to just laugh with yourself. All right, there's some great things on TV. I'm going to say it's a new skill for many of us, Carla. I mean, I laugh at myself, but now I need to laugh with myself. Okay, giggle lady.
I realize that when you laugh for no reason, you get more out of it than when you laughed because Jeff was funny or Victor was funny. It's being able to laugh with no reason. Laugh for the purpose of joy. And joy starts in the heart very deeply within. So when you laugh for no reason, you are opening up that fountain of joy that lives deep in your heart. And I need you guys to go a little further because I'm doing some.
Okay. Yeah, I think that more laughter and more levity is going to help us as we come out of, and we are going to come out of this pandemic, and I believe we're going to come out stronger. I was having a discussion with some friends, and they were lamenting about things like kids, lost a lot of learning in school. They're a group of mothers, young mothers, and while they were all talking, and they were kind of going down this rabbit hole, if you will, and I was like, wait a minute, the kids also learned a few things that we don't actually capture too often, and that's things like self-management, learning how to take responsibility in their own distance learning. There's things that are I was going to say untouchable. That's not the right word. I know what it is. It's, come on, brain, you can do it. You can do it. I'm going to pull it out here. I'm going to pull it out. Unintended consequences. And when we find those unintended consequences that are positive, we should highlight them. I've learned, for example, that one of my grandsons really likes to draw. I've talked to about this a little bit, how I told him about shadowing, and I use that as an example of integrating what we often talk about as the dark side of ourselves and the light side, but finding those unintended consequences can be a joy. Victor?
Everything can be a joy if you look at it a certain way. Am I muted? No. While you were talking, I had this really fantastic point I wanted to make, but because of this 2-minute rule, it left because you talked more than 2 minutes.
If you talk about that, you will be over 2 minutes. Just
if I talk about 2 minutes, okay.
Please, let's get to the point.
Reframe the question, please.
Talk to me about unintended consequences and how they can be wonderful.
Unintended consequences occur most of the time. Just like we seldom prepare what we're going to say before we say it, but we always say something meaningful, unintended consequences are exactly the same. The trick is to manage your mindset, to manage the way that you think, so that you can create something meaningful from an unintended consequence. Like, for instance, I didn't intend to get yelled at just now, but I did. So now I'm making something meaningful out of the fact that it was an unintended consequences. I think the difficulty for a lot of people is that they're not able to manage unintended consequences because they have set their expectations in a certain place. And while expectations have their place, they're not always made for you to realize your expectation. We briefly talked about goals just now, and the goals that I set, I seldom achieve the goals that I set because I always set a goal that's big enough to get me excited, that's enormous enough to get me moving forward. And my belief about goals is different from many people in that goals are designed to move you forward. If you don't have any goals, then you're not going to do anything at all. And if your goals is too simple, you're not going to be motivated enough to do it. So it makes sense to establish your goal, to set your goals by all means, and move toward your goal by all means. But the unintended consequence that really floors many people is not being able to achieve the goal that they have set.
But we can achieve the steps to the goal.
Well, the steps are nothing more than mini goals when you get right down to it. And
Thank you.
if you look at a step as a mini goal and make them big enough to be excited about, you basically just have a series of seemingly unattainable goals that move you forward. Because the point of the goal, as far as I'm concerned, is not really to achieve the goal, but it's just to move from where you are. Because where you are, it's going to get boring. I was thinking about boredom this morning because of the last 2 weeks I've had. I had a goal to enjoy the airplane ride because, see, 20 or 30 years ago, I had this anxiety experience where every time I got on an airplane, it was horrible. But it was only horrible for a minute or two. My goal was to not have that 20 to 30 years ago. But I still had it 20 to 30 years ago. But as time went by, I have it less and less and less. And this past season of traveling, that's one of the things that made it exceptional. And then next time I get on an airplane, next time I go on a trip, it'll be even better. And who knows, it may never go away completely, but it's not going to keep me in bondage, which is where I was 20 or 30 years ago.
That's true. Jeff, looks like you got something to say.
What do you want me to focus on? I'm sorry, I missed where we were going.
The
unintended consequence, unintended results, unintended outcomes. How do they have value?
Well, let's see. The whole idea is it's tremendous. The value is when you acknowledge it, its value received. The magic of serendipity and serendipity and synchronicity is one of the things that fuels life, and our ability to find that light from that intersection of serendipity and synchronicity not only is an acknowledgement of an unintended consequence, but perhaps provides direction for your soul to follow. and it provides signs for you to understand that whatever obstacles you may face that may overwhelm you, that may be the pathway to your dreams. And rather than to run away from the obstacles, embrace them and convert the obstacles into opportunities, and you'll be in a place which you have dreamt to be, but never recognized it before.
So do you celebrate those when you see them and recognize them, or do you just say, oh, that was nice?
Absolute celebration, joy, and delight, yes.
And this for both of you, what kind of celebrations do you do? Because I think some people don't know how to celebrate those moments.
I bookmark them because I say, wow, I don't look back, I only look forward. I recognize the paths I've taken. I don't think about the paths I have not. I go forward in time, I stay in the flow of the moment, and I recognize the magic along the way.
I like that.
Here's one of my celebrations, right? I decided several months ago that starting my day with a cold shower was a good thing.
Okay.
What I do is I get in the shower and turn the water on, and the water's cold, when you first turn the water on. Now, every day for a few seconds, a few minutes, I'm struggling with whether or not I'm going to do it today, right? I'm like, am I actually going to do it today? Am I going to do it? And I go back to a time when I saw a guy who at the time I thought was old, but he was my age that I am now. And he was talking about bungee jumping. And now bungee jumping, I see as something that you really have to prepare for. You really have to get in the right frame of mind for it. You really have to, you go like this, you go like this. But when he videotaped his experience, and all he did, he turned the camera on, is he took one step, boom, and he was gone, right? So then I take that and I incorporate that into my cold shower routine. So every morning, even though for the few seconds before I get in the shower, I'm going, ooh, am I going to do it because that water's going to be cold? I just get in and bam! And each time I do it, each time I experience it, I celebrate. All right, I did it again. So you make the celebration. You create the celebration. This thing called the mind, that mind is your biggest tool you got. And I use mine often.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you use your mind often. I'm not so sure I could do that cold water in the first thing in the morning thing, but yeah, we all have our ways of pushing ourselves. I believe me, I think, wow, if you can do that. I just had an instance where my water heater wasn't working, and I started to get into the shower one day and realized it was freezing cold. So more power to you. Wow. And I like the idea of bookmarking, as Jeff said, and allowing your brain to just sort of say, wow, and allowing this processor, which is more powerful than any supercomputer that we have in this world, is between our two ears. And guiding it is what you're talking about a little bit and it goes back to thought management, Victor. So Carla, are you getting ready to share something? I see it on your face.
I'm almost there. Remember, I had a real big thing of editing to do very quickly. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
I was gone.
We're gonna call you the technology queen.
I'm going to be one very soon if these things keep on happening. Trust me.
Oh, trusting is always a good thing. So, guys, this is 2022.
One thing, let me interrupt you and remind people that we are on YouTube. If you're watching and seeing value, please do us a favor, comment, like. It just helps us grow on YouTube. Okay, Jeanne.
I was going to say there's a meme that made me laugh, but it also gives me a moment of pause. And that's the meme is it was 2020 ... TOO. It's 2022. And
Oh, really?
the responses that I read were precious. I mean, some people were like, no, and others were like, yeah, don't go there, but making fun of it. So as we get into this new year, how important is it for us to look at lessons learned so that we can move forward? I mean, sometimes we have to process things before we can get out of our own way. Is that right or wrong? Carla, you're going, yeah, I got something.
First of all, I don't think there's any right or wrong in anything in life. What is happening for any individual is what is supposed to be happening for them at that moment. So to say it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's part of your journey. As for me, I find when I begin looking back, I stay back and I don't stay in the present moment. And when I look in the future, I'm worried, oh, will this happen or will that happen or what is going to happen? And I think it's really important for us to begin. And it's not something that happens easily. We need to remember to center ourselves. Take a deep breath when we begin worrying or when we begin regretting. And just get in that moment that we're living now and be grateful for the moment and allow that moment to be all there is, because that is all we have. We don't know what's going to happen a minute from now. And what happened in the past, I mean, Victor said, I just got yelled at, and I really wasn't yelling at him. I was just trying to get him back on task. Because if we're talking about, oh, this 2-minute rule, the whole point is getting lost. And I'm sorry, Victor, if you felt offended. And I am getting to my 2 minutes. So I think it's really important for us to work on remembering to breathe and being in the moment. And with that, Jeanne, you better take over or I will keep speaking and I will be way over 2 minutes.
Okay. Victor, you look like you're ready to respond.
When we're on camera, it's important to remember that we are speaking for the benefit of those watching. And I would not even waste my time being offended about anything, although I might pretend to be offended about something just for the entertainment value. So please don't feel like I thought that you were yelling at me. Be serious. I thought we shared my strategy about getting chewed out on this program before. And if you remember that strategy, you know good and well I wasn't being offended whatsoever. So back to you, Jeanne. Back to you for the next topic of discussion. Because as you know, yeah, I can't go more than 2 minutes.
Well, so the next topic is what helps you stay in the moment, Victor.
It's the idea of thought management is not a new idea for me. As human beings, we love celebrating and we like good things and we like good feelings and we like improvement. Well, see, a while back I was telling somebody if nothing bad ever happens to you, then God never really has the chance to bless you. And I think we all intellectually get that, but when there's something bad happens, we tend to get caught up in it. What I have managed to do is when I have an experience or a sensation that's not the way I like to have it, like I'm having now, is there's this phrase that runs in the background all the time. Oh, this is gonna go away. Oh, okay. This is gonna go away. Oh, this is not gonna last. And I get in the habit of constantly saying that. But I only say that when I have an outcome that I don't like. When I have one that I do like, it's like, oh man, this is great. So what I do is I weave the celebration and the lack of celebration into my mindset on a regular basis. And somebody just knocked on my door, so y'all go on without me just for a minute or two, okay? Can we do
Okay,
that?
I can do that. So, Jeff, how do you go about identifying your goals or your aspirations for the next year?
I don't do it a year in advance. I do it, in the moment, and it's really more for me, vision, opportunity in the now. That's really where it's at for me, and has been for a very long time. That I look to see what I experience. It's unbounded usually, and then I see those. Then I just remember to stay centered. Learning not to worry, because worrying is a complete waste of time and takes away that energy, it lowers your vibration. So for me, it's being open-minded, embracing of what is in front of me, to run into it, not away from it. And to know that, I've already gotten through the hardest days of my life because I'm here right now. I've survived that. What it's in front of me to deal with now, I could also handle. So I'm not afraid.
Okay. That had to take some practice to get there, though, because I feel like it's an automatic response for us to go first to worry. And you're right, it does nothing to anybody else. It just changes where you are. And the idea that it lowers your vibration that's very very insightful, actually. And so we should remember that when we start to worry about things. And I know I have my moments where I'm worried about a lot of things all at once, and I do feel like it's a lower vibration, and it's hard to kick yourself out of it. So that actually could be a goal for many of us, just to practice letting go of worry.
Yeah,
I'd like to speak to that.
Go ahead.
There's this phrase that people utter out of their pie holes, which I really think is self-defeating. This idea of worry, you can master the art of not worrying pretty simply if you want to. But this phrase, well, you should be worried about that. How many times have someone said to you, oh, well, you should be worried about that, or you should be worried about this? You should be worried about nothing. I don't really mind what the rest of the story is, but I am vigilant in this regard. When a person hears the phrase, you should be worried, it's very easy for them to worry. When a person is not worried and they hear that phrase, then they worry about what the person who's saying it thinks about them, right? Because if you should be worried, then let's be worried. And even though the Bible says there's a time for everything and everything, every purpose, there's a purpose for everything, I'd like to help dispel this notion that you should be worried. Certainly everything is not going to be a comedy show. I get that. However, let's see if we can eliminate this tendency to feel like we should be worried about something. You just pointed out, Jeff, that worrying is useless. So when someone hears you should be worried, they're saying you should do something that's useless. And under what context is doing something useless going to be beneficial? Thank you for the moment.
That was very, very prophetic.
Now, somebody has told you, well, you should be worried. You've heard it, haven't you? Everyone here has heard
Yeah, of course. It's part of our ongoing lexicon, and as we change and we start to vibrate a little higher as we're changing ourselves, people around us will say things like that, and unbeknownst to them, they're trying to bring us back to their level, and that's just normal. That's just human nature. That's part of our survival. we needed to be in groups to survive back when we had to fight ancient saber-toothed tigers. Now we don't have that need to support each other for literal life and death issues, but we still have the tendencies to worry about things like that, to use that useless word. And I know as we all kind of step into ourselves, that sometimes there's always something trying to anchor us back. And we need to have a response to that, like, I got this. I mean, sometimes I have that with my own self. So I'm going to call that thought management, thanks to you, Victor. But sometimes there's a voice inside of me that says, you can't do that. You're not supposed to do that. Or who do you think you are? And I'm learning in real time to be part of the now, as Jeff is talking about, to say, that's okay, sweetie, I got this. Because I have to change that voice. Carla?
I know is the voice is not sometimes there. The voice is always there. And if we don't keep aware, we start hearing, Jeff may say, I don't like that scarf you're wearing right now. Take it off. And I'm not going to, and Jeff didn't say it. He was just in front of my face.
I would never say that.
You may say it in a different way. No, you wouldn't say it. But the point is, if he said that, I may go on the show and thinking, oh no, I need to take this scarf off. Maybe I should put on a different one, blah, blah, blah. And I'm losing the moment. I'm also losing me because I'm listening to something outside of me instead of what I myself feel is good for me at the moment. And if we don't take that moment to go within us, to listen to what is in alignment for who we are, then we lose ourselves completely. And Jeanne, Victor, Jeff.
Victor, what is that? I see grapes.
This was at the door. When I went to answer the door, someone brought this for me and my wife.
That's adorable.
Yeah, I mean, it is. A friend just brought this over to me and my wife as a gift. And when Della brought it to me, I thought, well, this is. I think the panel would appreciate this.
It looks like a cheese roll porcupine. I love it.
I think it's from MoMA. It's from the Modern Museum of Art. It's just waiting to being presented before it's conducted into the museum.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's made of. It looks like a pear.
And grapes.
Yeah, it's a pear and grapes and blueberries.
That's very artistic. Okay, that's food to take a picture of and put on Facebook.
Well, we just took. Hey, sweetie, Della, let me take a picture of that.
Orange.
Thank y'all for sharing this moment with me.
But and what is the point? That's all we can share is this moment. We can complain about the past, but that's still in this moment. Is it worth complaining about? Is it worth wondering if Victor's going to be mad at me if I tell him he shouldn't be selling food? I'm only joking, Victor, right now.
You might as well be, because I'm taking it as a joke.
Okay, so the moment is all we have. And we're forgetting that. And the next moment, maybe I'll go and change my scarf. I can do it, close my cover and do it. But this is what I felt like wearing today. And that's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for saying you could close your camera and do it, because many people apparently in our Zoom world have forgotten to turn off their camera in inopportune moments. So we do have many bloopers out there, which makes us all want to laugh anyway.
we have more bloopers than I want to talk about this morning.
Jeff, you're quietly smiling over there, which tells me you're thinking about something.
Nothing necessarily relevant for the show, but I do think.
And you're supposed to be listening. Okay, go
I'm
on.
listening to you, but you're taking me to directions outside the scope of the conversation. So okay. I believe all we ever have is the moment we're in. Nothing else is promised, and everything is a blessing. And when we start to understand that every day is a blessing, that every day is a miracle, that we're living in times that are very special. And while it's interesting to make fun of what year we're in, we just have to remember what moment we're in. We have to understand and remember that as we stay focused and centered in the now, that is all we will ever have. And so when we understand that, we are able to then be guided divinely or otherwise, and to follow what it is we're meant to do. Being in the now without understanding of intention and purpose may take you down a river that you don't want to travel on. But when you look inside yourself and understand who you are, understand what you're meant to do, being in the now is the absolute blessing, perhaps divinity itself.
Carla, we have to capture that, because that is a great moment.
I agree. But the moment is over now. What's in this moment, Jeanne?
Well, what was popping in my head is there's a reason it's called the present, because it's a gift. There are a lot of different things out there about the past is over, the future is not here, but the present, that's a gift. And
I'll just add that only dead fish go with the flow.
And even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Dead fish go with the flow. What happens to our lives if we don't go with the flow?
Salmon, if they went with the flow, they would die. I mean, they have to go upstream to do their magic.
So the struggle is important.
I think so, at a high vibration.
But it's only important to us. I was just thinking a moment ago, if an ant was to lose weight, would any of us notice?
Yes.
If an ant was to get a nose job, would any of us notice? If an ant were to change themselves in any way, shape, form, or fashion, would any of us notice? Now, it would probably be important to the ant, but it's not important to us. So in the grand scheme of things, all the steps that we make, all the seemingly self-improvement things that we do to change our bodies, to change the way that we look, to get a haircut, to put on makeup, when you go far enough from the source and you look at us, you really get to see how idiotic it is we are to go through, not to just do the things that we do to get better, but to agonize over not doing them well enough, or to struggle about whether or not it's successful or not. And it's an interesting way to look at things, and the closer you get to realizing that what you are doing or not doing is important to you, and only to you, then you can shed the worry, you can shed the fear of a criticism of someone saying else about whatever it is that you do. Because guaranteed, ants probably lose weight. Probably.
That's a good point. It reminds me of something I learned when my son was still an infant. I was working and I was going through something at work. I was very upset about something. And this woman that I worked with came into my office, and she took a picture that I had of my baby and she pasted it to the back of my door. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? And she closed the door and she goes, I know right now you're upset. I get that. But I want you to look, when you're upset, I want you to come in here, close the door, and look at that picture. And I'm looking at her quizzically, wondering, what's your point? And she said, think about this. In 5 years, will it matter to him? In 5 years, will it matter to him? And once it was an exercise in learning about perspective. And I've used that lesson over and over and over again, because that particular lesson spoke to me so loudly that I was able to take a breath and let go of that moment of angst. I was no longer upset. It was like, okay, whatever happens in 5 years, we won't remember this, and move on. So that's beautiful, Victor, to remember. Does an ant get a facelift? We can't see it, so it wouldn't be important to us, right?
Right.
I mean, I do notice ants when they kind of make it through and they're successful. The scout ants that come out and you make it to my kitchen, and I try to bless them and give them a minute to get the heck out of there, but they don't.
I mean, I would interrupt and say that, just be careful not to be judgmental. Just because your value system is not the same as someone else's doesn't make it what they do wrong.
And that's important too.
I'm just saying, don't even pay attention to it. I mean, don't judge it. Just it's just something that goes by.
You might appreciate the magic of how powerful ants really are. The fact they can lift more than 10 times their weight. The fact that they're organized in ways, they're decentralized, and they're autonomous, and they're very magical beings. And if things actually happen to ants, we may not notice it directly, but it could affect us dramatically in the end, because our entire ecosystem would be perhaps affected by it. Because just because something isn't important to us doesn't make it not important to the world. It's one of those sensitivities, the balance of nature and such. I do again believe that if we could just remember that what's important for us, what our priorities are, may not be your neighbor's priorities, right? What your worries are may not be anyone else's worries. It doesn't make them less important. And I'm not saying, by the way, that we don't worry, because I do think there is some energy out there that makes us aware. But when we bring that worry into our life, that affects us and shuts us down, then we're doing a disservice perhaps to ourselves. And if you are of service, how do we recharge ourselves if we're in that state? So I make it a point not to worry. I don't disregard people who are worrying, because I respect that. I just look for ways to prevent myself from getting depressed and keep myself toward a light. I recognize that sometimes we have to find the darkness to see the light. I recognize that sometimes it's only in those moments when we fear the most that we actually also appreciate the magic of life the most. And that I do believe that with positivity, we can get through anything and everything. And that I will hold on to that light no matter what, understanding deep inside, that is why I'm here.
Beautiful. And I agree with you. I've been working on what I call suspending judgment, when I find myself becoming judgmental about how somebody's doing something because it's not something I'm in control of. And oftentimes it comes down to a thought like, I wouldn't do it that way. Like I know everything. It's not my job to judge, is what I keep reminding myself. It's not my job to judge. And to me, that's a point of growth that we should be pointing out to a lot of people. It's a point when you leave the child behind and become an adult, when you allow others to be who they are and accept them without judgment, as long as they're not hurting you or anybody else. You let them be in charge of their life, let their free will go. We have our own free will. We can accept or not accept. I was just talking with my family last night about Yoda and reminding them of the do or do not. There is no try. You accept somebody or you don't. There's no judgment. Yes, it's one or the other. And now, I don't live in a black and white world. It might sound like that when I say it's one or the other, because I know that there are, hundreds of thousands of different shades of gray. It's where we pick what fits for us. So when I find myself in that judgmental mode, which is something I learned as a child, because that's how my family was, that was part of the family discussion often. You know, it's when I started to let go of that judgment that I felt like I finally was coming into my adulthood. And I won't tell you how old I was because it was way longer than it should have been. But I think we're always growing into our adulthood. We're always learning how to process what we learned as children and transition into, you know, maturity. You could still be even 90 years old and still looking to mature in some ways.
But is maturity something we need to think about, or is it something that happens and grows?
It's kind of both. I think sometimes how we act or react keeps us in a space that we need to either decide if that's who we are or we need to change. And it's how you look at it is how you're going to grow. If you're always, you know, using judgment, you know, if you're always looking around and going, oh, I would not wear that, you know, that is not her color. Or did you see that? Did you see what that woman was wearing? She's way too old to wear something like that. That's part of our regular lexicon, especially if you're a woman. We are trained to be critical of how other women look. I mean, just look at all the magazines. It's ingrained. And when you start to be aware of that, you go, oh, that's called judgment. And then when you become aware of it and you learn how to mitigate that, or, you know, to, what's the word I want, to manage.
Mitigate's good.
Yeah. So you want to mitigate that and change how you look at, oh, look at that. She's looking pretty comfortable today. You know, it doesn't matter what you wear. That's not my choice. That's your choice. You know, I get to choose if I accept it or don't accept it. You know, and that's where maturity comes in. Maturity is not a bad word, Carla. And, you know, I know in my family it meant getting old, you know, but I have a phrase that I've been saying to myself since I was 25. And that's, I didn't make it up. Somebody famous said it. Old is 15 years older than me. Therefore, I will never be old. You know, and that keeps me young. And when I started to really internalize that and believe it, that made my reactions into the rest of the world different. I mean, I thought it was precious when my then teenage son told me I wasn't allowed to sing to Led Zeppelin songs because I was too old. And I get to say to him at that point, sweetie, you realize that I was a teenager when they started singing. You know, this is music from my era. And he's like, no, you know, but in his mind, I was too old. And then I reminded him that I will be forever 39 in your mind, no matter how old you get. You will always be my baby, no matter how old you get. I could be 90 something and you could be 50 something, and I'm still going to say, you're my baby. So old is a state of mind. You know, maturity, on the other hand, is learning, growing, and applying that learning and those lessons so that you can move forward. You know, how many of us, as we go through this dreaming process, I'd like to ask people to think about this. How many of us go through the same thing over and over and over, and you want to say, I've learned this lesson. Please, let's move on. Apparently, we haven't learned it yet.
You're making me think of the movie Groundhog Day. And
yeah. That's a beautiful example. You know?
And if you have ever seen the movie, was it Tom? Yeah. That's why
Bill Murray
goes back in time. He goes to Punxsutawney, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he goes to see Groundhog Day. But the next day he wakes up and he's in the same day. And he changes the day by small things. He goes back to that day maybe 10, 20 times. And each time he grows in that day and he becomes more of who he is supposed to be. And then he is totally developed where he is supposed to be in life. But the point is, his going back is almost like a reminder. Okay, you learned this today. Great. What are we going to learn today? So the next lesson comes up and he learns it and he goes to the next one until he really comes up to the present day. Beautiful experience of the moment, Jeff.
I believe that Groundhog Day is actually one of the most beautiful love stories ever told. It's estimated that Bill Murray re-experienced that same day over 10,000 times. And if you look at all the skills that he accumulated during the course of the movie and how he's able to better appreciate and go from being so selfish to so loving, and transformed his life into one of love and light and enlightenment, you could appreciate how transformational the story, how transformational everything is, because and to recognize that day that everything came together, that took so much time, effort, and energy to save a life or two, to learn to entertain, and to be there for everyone else and themselves is purely magical. A lot to be learned if you can actually, dissect Groundhog Day and start to understand it, the story that was told, that maybe it was a dark comedy when it came out. I do believe in retrospection is actually an ultimate love story, one that that's the reason why it lives on for generations. And as a foretelling of 2020, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but one of the most popular Super Bowl ads of 2020 was Bill Murray coming in and reenacting this character for Groundhog Day on behalf of a car company. And it was just something like that, how life happens.
Tell us about that commercial. I'm curious.
Maybe on the next episode of the show. I think we're over an hour now.
Yeah.
Oh, we are.
It's magic.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes.
Okay, guys, remember our YouTube channel, Gigglefest University, and subscribe and watch the show there, because actually it's more fun watching it live. What am I forgetting, Jeannie? Because I know I'm forgetting something.
Carla has established a Patreon page, so it's Patreon, and she's the Giggle Lady, and it's to through donations raise some funds to keep these shows on the air, to keep things going. And she has a special raffle going on for anybody who donates $5 or more. There's a raffle, and the prize for the raffle is a half-hour one-on-one session with Carla directly online. So if you have it in your heart to support Carla and Gigglefest University and all of the shows that she's got, including Learning English by Speaking English and MindPlore, please go to Patreon, and it's the Giggle Lady. And the link is on in several places. It's on the website. It's on Learning English by Speaking English. And it's on gigglefestuniversity.com.
And we would really appreciate it. Having said that, we will be back on Tuesday with another MindPlore with Carla and Friends. I know Jeannie will be here. I don't know who else will be here. And we will talk about a new topic. And with that, because Jeff nicely reminded us that we are over time and I lost track, we are going to wave goodbye and we'll...
Wait, how are we going to remember to have Jeff talk about that commercial? Somebody going to make a note somewhere?
Can you do it very quickly, Jeff?
So no, we don't want to cheapen it. We want to get the thing. Let's
but
I
don't know. I know Jeff most likely isn't back next week.
But what we can do is Jeff, if you see the commercial, a link to the commercial, because I'm sure it's out there somewhere, we can put it on the page so people can see it.
Okay, I could do that.
Do you remember the commercial quickly and you can tell the story in 1 minute, 2 minutes or less?
In the commercial, he comes back to Bill Murray. His character from Groundhog Day is actually comes back to life. And it's actually the commercial is reset, and it is his character. I will get I'll share the links so that when you post this, you can put it in the comments for the show.
Okay.
Or you can put it in the comments.
All right, that is true.
We'd love you to.
I will do. Okay.
Okay. With that, we are going to wave goodbye. Have a great day, people, and we will definitely be back next week on YouTube for
making our dreams come true.
Making our dreams come true with MindPlore. Bye.